I'm coming at you live on tape from Sydney, Ohio. And today we're talking about Wrestler's Court. Now, for those of you who don't know what Wrestler's Court is, it's a kangaroo court run by the wrestlers backstage in WWE, which they really haven't done lately. And it was introduced by Dutch Mantel to kind of take care of things between two wrestlers when an issue came up before it came to them just slugging it out. And the judge was usually The Undertaker, though sometimes there was Triple H. JBL was usually the prosecutor, and the defense attorney was usually whoever the wrestler could grab. Whoever the wrestler could grab and was willing to defend them. Now, a lot of people were brought to Wrestler's Court. These are just some of their stories. At one point, Edge and Christian were brought to Wrestler's Court because they gave Brian Gewirtz a Flash action figure, which is forbidden in their contract, and they were brought to Wrestler's Court because they said they were buttering up the writers. So Edge and Christian, being Edge and Christian, they went to the prop department with a fake book and had a fake book made up that said how to ass kiss your way to the top, and brought that to Wrestler's Court. And were cracking jokes and saying they totally did it and they ass kissed their way to the top, and were cracking jokes and being smart alecky and not taking any of it seriously. Needless to say, they were found guilty by The Undertaker. The Wrestler's Court was trying to take it seriously. They were not. They were found guilty by The Undertaker and ordered to buy beer for the APA, protein powder for Bob Holly, and Jack Daniels for The Undertaker. Another instance of Wrestler's Court was when Muhammad Hassan, who remembers Muhammad Hassan? Probably none of you, so I'll remind you who Muhammad Hassan was. He was an Arab character who the WWE introduced as a top villain shortly after 9/11, though he was of Arabian descent, and he was actually from like Michigan or Canada. I don't remember if he was from Michigan or Canada, but he was of Arabian descent. He wasn't actually from the Middle East. He was pushed to the top straight out of the gate at like 22 years old with Daivari as his manager. And he was Arabian and he was a top heel. He was brought to Wrestler's Court twice. The first time was when he wrestled Sergeant Slaughter for no selling Sergeant Slaughter's offense. Now, he defended himself by saying that he was told to no sell Sergeant Slaughter's offense as the top heel. As a top foreign heel. He was again brought to Wrestler's Court, this time after he talked to Eddie Guerrero about not using his finishing move, the Camel Clutch, a move which Eddie Guerrero's father invented. Now, according to Muhammad Hassan, when he talked to Eddie Guerrero, he was very apologetic about it, very nice, and Eddie Guerrero completely understood about not using that move. But the wrestlers still brought him to Wrestler's Court because they said he was getting too big for his britches, and he was ordered to pay a $4,000 bar tab that the wrestlers made at the hotel that night. Another person who was brought to court was Melina, who could figure that one out, because Melina burned every bridge she ever came across because she was just too high and mighty. She was brought to Wrestler's Court for apparently just being Melina At which point, Brian Kendrick and Paul London took bets on how long it would take her to cry from the verbal abuse. Apparently, the winner was about 10 minutes. The Hardys were once brought to wrestlers' court. Shortly after they won their first tag titles, and Michael Hayes was their manager, because Michael Hayes told them to take first-class seats with him, when in fact the seat Jeff Hardy took was reserved for Kane. Now, Kane did not have a problem with this and was more than happy to sit and coach, but the wrestlers did have a problem with this and saw this as disrespectful from Jeff Hardy, and so they took the Hardys to court, where the Hardys were found guilty of disrespecting Kane and the higher-up wrestlers, and so the Hardys were meant to prank an older top superstar and other superstars because of their disrespectful of just Michael Hayes getting them in trouble. Now, Matt Striker, this shouldn't surprise anyone that Matt Striker got brought to wrestlers' court, because Matt Striker is annoying. And when he first came in to WWE, he annoyed everyone. At one point, Chris Benoit was yelling at him in the lobby of a hotel room, and Chris Benoit took him in private and said, "Listen, I got to do this. I have nothing against you. Just come to me if there are any problems, but I got to yell at you in public over this." And I remember reading that, but I don't remember what Chris Benoit was yelling at him over. I think just Matt Striker being annoying. And Matt Striker also at one point when he came into WWE was kicked out of the locker room and meant to change in other bathrooms. But JBL one night brought him to wrestlers' court. Now the story goes that Matt Striker was in his bedroom and got a call and said, "Stay away from the hotel lobby. JBL's drunk and looking for you." And then a few minutes later, he got a call and said, "JBL's drunk. He's holding wrestlers' court and he wants you down here now." And JBL called him down and was holding wrestlers' court, but was so drunk, he's like, "I should just fight you." So Matt Striker stood up and said, "Bring it on." And so JBL, either he was too drunk to stand, or he respected the man for getting up and being willing to fight, and he dropped the whole thing. And Matt Striker was more respected after that for being willing to take his ass kicking from JBL. Teddy Long, who always traveled with the Acolytes, the story goes, was never willing to pay tolls or for gas. So he was brought to wrestlers' court. Now, the reason being, we're not entirely sure. It's either because he was cheap and not willing to pay for tolls or gas for the APA when he traveled with them, or because, according to Teddy Long, he was selling Viagra to the boys in the back, and that's why he was brought to wrestlers' court. Now, either way, he was found guilty and forced to pay for a month of chicken and beer for the APA, which I'm sure cost him all of his salary that month. That was another one. The Miz was brought to wrestlers' court. Now, we all know The Miz is annoying. And The Miz, coming off real world fame and then doing Tough Enough, he was not really respected when he got into WWE. He was pretty much the one who was everybody's punching bag. And at one point, according to The Miz, he did not get anything on Chris Benoit's bag but maybe a crumb or two. But Chris Benoit freaked out and said he got chicken grease all over his bag. And so at this point, the Miz is like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. He'll pay for the cleaning. So the next night, the Miz gets there, and the locker room decides that the Miz can no longer change in the locker room on live shows, but he can at TV tapings. Well, the next TV taping comes up, and they say, no, Miz, you can't change it to live or TV tapings for 6 months. So the Miz was finding restrooms, public restrooms, anywhere he could go besides a locker room to change. There is another one that I know. When Mick Foley and Al Snow, and this is when Al Snow was first getting into WWE, and Mick Foley is notoriously cheap. So Mick Foley and Al Snow are traveling together. And they talk Bob Holly into giving up his car rental, and getting a car with them to save money. Now, Bob Holly thinks they're picking him up at the airport. Mick Foley and Al Snow think they're picking him up at the carnival that Mick Foley and Al Snow are going to. So needless to say, Bob Holly has to get his rental again and go back and travel alone again. And it costs Bob Holly more. So Al Snow, being terrified of going to Wrestler's Court, talks Mick Foley into just paying Bob Holly the money needed to pay for the rental and 2 days hotel stay, because pretty much Mick Foley and Al Snow got it confused. Now, those are all the stories that I can think of that I read about going to Wrestler's Court. I think I missed one, but I don't remember it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Next week, I'm out of ideas, but I think I had an inkling of an idea, but I don't remember what it was.